Mom sided with stepdad and his kids, kicked me out, but they forgot that I own the house. Now it's time to take it back. I was 19 when my mom remarried this guy named Greg. He had 2 kids from his first marriage, Ashley and Brandon. They were 16 and 14. From day one, those 2 acted like they owned the place. My place. The house my grandma left me when she died. My grandma bought that house in 1987. She raised my mom there. When I was born, she helped my mom out since my dad bailed before I even existed. Grandma practically raised me while mom worked 2 jobs. When grandma got sick, she made sure the house went to me, not my mom, me. She told me it was so I'd always have a home no matter what happened. I was 17 when she passed. The house was put in my name. Mom was still living there with me since she'd lived there her whole life too. I didn't think anything of it. It was just our home. Mom paid the utilities and property taxes and I helped out when I could. Then Greg showed up. They dated for like 6 months before he moved in. I was fine with it at first. Mom seemed happy. But then his kids started coming over every other weekend. Then it became every weekend. Then they just started living there full time. Ashley took over the guest room and redecorated it without asking. Brandon started eating all the food I bought for myself. Greg acted like he ran the place. He'd changed the thermostat, rearranged furniture, and started telling me what I could and couldn't do in my own house. I brought it up to my mom. She told me to be understanding because they were adjusting. I said fine, but it got worse. Greg's kids started throwing parties when I was at work. I came home one night to find beer cans all over the living room and someone had punched a hole in the hallway wall. When I confronted Ashley, she laughed and said accidents happen. Greg said he'd fix it but never did. I told my mom this was getting out of hand. She said I was being dramatic and that I needed to accept that we were a blended family now. I told her it wasn't her house to blend. That shut her up for a bit. Then things exploded. I came home from my shift at the warehouse to find the locks changed. My key didn't work. I knocked and Greg answered. He said I needed to move out because the house was too crowded and his kids needed their space. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. My mom came to the door. She said they'd talked about it and decided it would be best if I found my own place. Greg needed to establish himself as the head of household, and I was making that difficult. Brandon needed the garage for his band practice, and my room would be better as Ashley's walk-in closet. I stood there like an idiot. I asked if she was serious. She said I was an adult now and needed to figure things out on my own like she did at my age. Greg smirked behind her. I asked where I was supposed to go. She said I could stay with friends for a while. I didn't have friends like that. I worked 50 hours a week and barely had time to sleep. They closed the door. My stuff was in trash bags on the porch. I called my uncle, my mom's brother. He let me crash on his couch and told me I needed to get a lawyer. I thought he was overreacting, but he kept pushing. He reminded me the house was in my name. I'd honestly forgotten about that. It had just been home. I never thought about the legal part. I went to a lawyer the next week, a free consultation place. The lawyer looked at my documents and started grinning. She said this was the easiest case she'd ever seen. The house was 100% mine. My mom had no legal claim. Greg definitely didn't. They couldn't kick me out of my own property. We drafted an eviction notice, official legal paperwork. It gave them 30 days to vacate the premises. The lawyer served it herself. She said she wanted to see their faces. My mom called me screaming an hour later. She said I was being ungrateful and cruel, that Greg had invested so much into that house. I asked what he'd invested. She said he'd bought a new grill and fixed the fence. I said cool, he can take the grill when he leaves. Greg got on the phone. He threatened to sue me. The lawyer had already told me he had no case. I told him to go ahead and try. He said I'd regret this. I hung up. They didn't leave after 30 days. The lawyer filed for a formal eviction. We had to go to court. Greg showed up with some guy he said was his lawyer. Turns out it was just his brother-in-law who worked in insurance. The judge looked at the paperwork for maybe 5 minutes. He asked Greg if he had any legal claim to the property. Greg said he'd been living there for 2 years and that should count for something. The judge said that's not how property ownership works. He ruled in my favor. They had 2 weeks to get out or the sheriff would remove them. My mom tried calling me every day. I didn't answer.